My name's Cheryl Miles. I'm Head of Branch Development at the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development.
I'm David Evans. I'm the Membership Director at BCS, the Chartered Institute for IT.
The purpose of our networks varies depending on the type of network. So we have two types of network. Our branches and regions, which are really there to support our members who live out and about all across the UK, and they're there to provide events, seminars and opportunities for our members to make sure they're right up to the latest information on practice, to hear about what other people are doing, and also to provide networking opportunities as well. We then have our special interest groups, and they're very similar, but they look after our people who are interested in the same profession. It might be the same sector, or it might be something like our Next Generation Network, where they're similar age groups. They want to get together and share good ideas and influence what we do as an organisation.
Well, a big part of what we do as a professional body is bring people together, and the main vehicle for doing that is our member groups. So that's by geographic region, local branches and by special interest.
Probably the most successful way in which we get volunteers is a tap on the shoulder. They attend events, they're there on a regular basis, they seem to have quite a connect with the branch. As a consequence of that, someone from the committee might say, have you thought about being on committee? We'd really value your input. Come and be a friend of the committee. And I think that's probably the most successful one. What we've done this year is we've introduced something called a PACE Award. PACE stands for our four main values, to be purposeful, to be agile, to be collaborative and to be expert. And we've introduced those in a formal and an informal way. Informally, if individuals want to put a volunteer forward for a PACE Award because they've been purposeful in bringing about a mentoring scheme at local level, we would then give them a certificate and say thank you to them in a public arena. We've also introduced some formal PACE Awards this time around as well. Those are for more showcase things, so they're for bigger projects that individuals might well get involved in. We've run it twice now, and it's increasingly becoming very popular. This time around we had double the entries to last time, so we're really quite pleased about that.
We have some great volunteers running our networks. Obviously, we couldn't do it without them. They're all volunteer run. And one of the key things we find in terms of succession planning is trying to encourage people in post to recruit their successor. Also gives them a bit of incentive if they want to move on to something else or they feel they've done their stint after a few years. What we do is we will help, obviously, our branches and special interest groups to recruit. We do that in a range of methods depending on how much the branch does or doesn't want help. So some of our branches are very self-sufficient, run their own recruitment campaigns. Alternatively, we will help them by discussing a role description, making sure that's up to date, to advertise it on through our members, to the relevant section of the membership. We can help with arranging interviews, we can help with interviews if they want, all quite informal obviously as a volunteer role. And if they want us to, we can take references. So really, we try and work in partnership with the groups to see what support they need.
Well, I think it depends a little bit on the circumstances how we recruit, because I think geographically you're looking for people who have the right kind of enthusiasm, but a lot of it's done on a local level from a recruitment point of view. But we have a team that's based in our head office who make sure that there's a good continuing sort of pathway for people in the member groups, so that there's always people ready to go on a committee. For the special interest groups, I think what we're looking for is people who have a reputation and a leadership role within that specialism area. But I think a lot of the main recruitment is just done by the people as they hand over and move from one committee to another.
At a UK level, and indeed in Ireland, we actually do provide some funds for the individuals to be able to put on activities at a local level for members. A lot of them make some money as well, either by selling, events, selling, places at their events. Also, they get an awful lot of goodwill and sponsorship. We're about to take the reserves away from our branches this year. We're introducing a new funding model, and the way in which that will work is we will tell them exactly how much money that they've got and they can spend up to that amount. In the past, they have built up reserves, and in some cases built them up because they can't spend the money. So what we've done this year is we've said, okay, that's going. And you've never really been able to access that money unless you had a good business case, and even then you couldn't all access it at the same time. So what we've done is we've put a pot of money totally separately available to the branches that they can access, and they can all access it all at the same time if they so wish, and for any amount of money that they wish. If it's less than £10,000, the majority it will be, because it will be for an event or a couple of events. Then it's a simple process of writing a 2-page approval document for that, and that would be approved by me, and that's approved within 4 weeks of issuing. If it's something more substantial and more than £10,000, then we have an internal process anyway that we have to go through if it's for more than £10,000, and they have to enter into that process, and I'll help them to put together the business case for that, so that it then goes to our internal judging panel.
Our special interest groups are self-funding groups, so they will they'll have our committee meetings quite often here, or sometimes through virtually GoToMeetings, something like that, which we provide. And then they'll arrange events, but they'll cover the cost for those either through charging for events or through getting a venue in kind, or sandwiches by the venue, etc. Our branches we provide funding centrally for. We used to historically have a situation where branches would apply at the beginning of the year, they weren't sure how many events they'd have, and then they may or may not run those events, so they might end up sitting on quite a large amount of money at the end of the year. So what we've done is we've changed that system a few years ago. So all the branch income is managed through a series of regional bank accounts. So the branches get together, and a few of them manage a bank account. That's all part of our banking system, so we know how much money is where, etc. And we keep an agreed minimum amount in there, but if a branch either doesn't do any events, then that doesn't matter, we don't need to top that up. But equally importantly, if a branch is being really active and has a really good idea for a really big event, then they just let us know. Any event over a certain amount, they have to let us know what they're intending to do, and then we can provide additional funding for that. So we find that works much better in terms of the money going to the branches that need it and are using it, rather than maybe sitting in bank accounts where they're not needed, and that seems to be working well.
Every year we have a complex budget process for our 117 groups, and basically they apply for a standard budget which they're allocated, and then anything in the year that they need over and above that, we have a process that they can apply for further funding. One of the complexities is we have a way of them holding funds over for more than 1 year, and this is largely to do with issues that we found when we moved away from them having their own bank accounts and their own reserves, which from a control over your finances point of view didn't work. But the problem with that was that at the year end, any surplus that a group has made out of an event or something like that could be immediately lost, and that wasn't necessarily very good at creating incentives for them to build up what they were doing, or indeed if they were making money on one activity that they wanted to spend in the next. So we've got a way of them effectively accessing that fund across financial years, but what it doesn't allow them to do is sit on a steady surplus for 10 years and build up a large reserve that they can call on. So we can still maintain proper financial controls over the organisation.